So I have to give you a little bit of history about my stepdaughter, my relationship with her. So I was never going to have kids, and people say all the time, by the way, don't say this to a stepmother. Oh, but you love them like your own. No, I don't. Absolutely, I do not. I love them like my stepdaughters, and it's just a different relationship, and I love to honor the relationship that I have as a stepmom very separately than a relationship that they have with their mom, which is also awesome. So anyway, I hate hearing that, but I got them when they were very young. Alex wasn't quite 2. I've got to experience a lot of things with her. I got to potty train her. That was fun for both of us, because she got rotavirus like the weekend after, and then I did too. So we got to know each other really well during that time. I got to give her her first haircut. I got to take her to Disney World. We went to Disney World. I got to do lots of cool things that, was that the baby? Anyway, I got to do lots of cool things that real moms get to do. But I'm not a real mom. I'm a cool mom. I also got to send them to their mother's house every other week, which all of you that had kids, you did not do it right, because sending them to their mom's house every other week is sanity in my world, because I wasn't meant to have kids. But when Alex was 10, I think, is when 2019, we were doing our second or third conference, and I don't exactly remember how she said she wanted to speak at it, but she told me she wanted to speak. So we sat down and we wrote a talk, and mostly I wrote a talk, and she delivered it amazingly well, and we worked our way through it. She spoke a couple of other times, which I'm sure she'll touch on, and every time she took a little bit of the control away from me, because that's what your kids do, right? They grow up and then you lose a little bit of control. And so this time, now she tells me she asked me if she could speak, but I remember being told that she was going to speak. But she said she wanted to speak at the conference because she knew that she's on Facebook now, and she saw that the topic was on resiliency, and she said that really spoke to her, and she wanted to come back. And I was like, well, I'm sure they would all love to have you back. I'll have to share with you guys the recording of the one she did in 2010. It's a terrible recording. We did it we didn't have all this then, the lights and the cameras, and back then we had a cell phone and a tripod, and it was in a really terribly lit room at the Marriott, where it's super yellow. We all looked really nice. Anyway, she delivered a speech. She had us all in tears. So this time, every time I tried to gain control and ask her, or talk to her about what her talk was on, she let me know under no uncertain terms that I was not to know anything that was going to be said. So I have this much information. She has it all written down, and she's kept it turned over. But and like I said earlier today, she had to climb up on a step stool the first time she spoke, and now she's gonna look much more poetic behind this podium than I do, with my little thing. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Alexus Van Kerckhove. Oh, you want to put it?
Most often question I got about my speech today is if you need tissues, and I'm gonna confirm, probably. I wish there was a little complimentary one I could give you, but I don't have that. So, anyways, hello. Some of you may remember me from past conferences, as she's mentioned, but if I'm a new face, my name is Alexus Van Kerckhove. I'm 16 years old, and I'm Kendra's stepdaughter. This is my 4th time speaking at one of her conferences. I'm glad to get to do it again. Definitely doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I got out of school today to be here. Loving that. First thing that I want to start off with is to congratulate Kendra and Rena with how much they have grown this conference into what it is today. I personally have learned a lot from these conferences and have learned from my behind-the-scenes view of all the work they both put into each conference. I also want to thank Kendra personally for everything. Eye contact is killing me. Personally taught me from washing dishes to what it means to have an impact on people. I wouldn't be who I am today without you, so thank you. As you all probably know, this year's conference is about resilience. The definition I found off Google says, the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties, other words, toughness. My definition of resilience is not knowing if you have the strength to power through, but persevering anyway. Resilience may not be something you think you have, but I feel that most of the time we are forced to be resilient. We don't choose to be in bad situations or to have problems, but we deal with them anyway. Most of the time we don't think in our heads, oh, I'm being resilient. But if we look deeper, we realize that's what we did. For me, resilience doesn't feel like a choice I have to make, but more of an instinct. It feels like a regular reaction to just move past things and learn from them. Resilience is something I've seen many times in my life, in myself, other people, in big instances and in small instances. Whether it was watching my parents build their businesses or my own internal struggle, I never really got to appreciate resilience. What I mean is, I didn't know that every time I woke up not feeling like myself, but laughed the same, that I was being resilient. And I didn't know that every time my parents got up in the morning and went to work, that they were physically and mentally exhausted and still had a smile on their face, in between drilling me for not making my bed or brushing my teeth. That they were being resilient. Being resilient in the fact that we all have troubles, but waking up in the morning and making or not making your bed means pushing ourselves past it. Resilience means being uncomfortable, but also forcing yourself to be comfortable within the discomfort. For example, running. My cross-country coach in middle school always told us to get comfortable being uncomfortable. In other words, he told us to be resilient. I don't do cross-country anymore, but running for me means hating my life till the finish line. Relatable? Anyone? Yeah. I was comfortable with the pain of running because I was also comfortable with the feeling of the pain on the finish line. Now, applying that to life, we can say that school is uncomfortable, horrid, painful, however you want to say it, but we do it because we are comfortable with the outcome after we push through. When I asked Kendra if I could speak at our conference, she swears, and she said it still, that I never asked her. I may or may not have already started my speech. Besides that, I honestly didn't have a very in-depth personal understanding of resilience. However, after reflecting on my life, resilience is present much more than I could have ever imagined or noticed. I think that's because we don't really talk about being resilient. We don't look for it in ourselves, and we don't see it in our lives. Resilience is one of those things that is deep down. We have to search for it within ourselves. I want you to think of just one time that you have been resilient. No matter how big or small the instance, I'm sure you can think of something. Now think of one time that you saw someone around you being resilient. Whether it was today or 10 years ago, your mom or a random stranger, I have a feeling something came to mind. If something didn't come to mind, I will share some of my own experiences, and you can apply them to your life. In 2023, I transitioned from a graduating 8th grade class of 24 students to an incoming freshman class of over 400. Needless to say, I wasn't the biggest fan. I did enjoy the different learning environment and meeting new people, but my least favorite place, and still what, is the lunchroom. Don't get me wrong, I had some good laughs with my friends during lunch, but I also don't enjoy the high school adolescence. You too? Yeah. Anyways, freshman year, when I transitioned from first semester to second semester, I had to learn a whole new schedule, and I had a new lunch without any friends in it. So the first lunch, I stood at the entrance to the lunchroom, waiting to see someone I knew. I didn't see anyone, and I didn't want to sit alone at a table, so I ended up sitting in the bathroom stall the entire lunch period because I was too embarrassed to eat alone. I cried. This carried on for the rest of the week until I finally asked someone that I had met in my class to sit with me at lunch, and then I was fine for the rest of the semester. Now, crying in the bathroom stall was not what made me resilient. It's just part of the process. But wanting to do something other than cry at lunch and asking someone to sit with me is what made me resilient in that situation. Another personal example I have from this year is I started going to therapy. I go to physical therapy, and I go to therapy for my mental health. It has always been hard for me to distinguish when something is a tough spot or when it is a problem that needs some attention. I have found that I typically look for the advice of my family and friends to know what I'm feeling and going through. However, in November of 2024, I began to notice that when I would share some of what I was feeling, no one could resonate with me. No one had advice for me or personal experience to share with me. I then began to feel alone. I felt like nobody understood me. I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone. I mean, if they didn't understand how I felt, how could I? You guys may know or have picked up on that I am very much an extrovert. My favorite thing is to talk, literally. I talk my family's ears off. I love it. I'm sure they do. Yeah? No? So, I love talking to people. Mostly. I have always had a sense of awkwardness when talking to adults, but as I got into high school, I found myself becoming shy in classes and having trouble making friends because I didn't talk to people, even people my age. That really confused me because talking to people is an outlet for me to process my life. So every day I felt less and less like myself. Fast forward to December 2024, and I completely separated from everyone around me. I can't open up to my family about what I'm feeling. And combined with other life stress, I began to develop anxiety. Every day, my brain is constantly racing, thinking of a million things, and they just run right through me. I'll think of something important I need to do, but can't do in the moment. My heart starts racing. I get hot, and my eyes go wide as I think of 100 situations where I can get what I need to get done. Then, because I can't do it in the moment, I forget about it and go on to the next thing that needs done. Now, going into January, I had begun talking to my sister, Raylan, about her therapy experience, what it was like to ask our parents for help, and her experience now after having gone to therapy for a while. She continued giving me information and encouraging me to talk to my parents about it. Long story short, she spilled the info to my mom the day I was going to ask her and talk to her about everything I'd been going through, and everything went fine. That is the most recent life lesson I have learned. The lesson being that we often don't know when we're being resilient and when we are wearing ourselves out. But this is why I have always been grateful for how many resources and outlets I have, such as my family, especially my sister, who has been the only true constant in my life, with my parents being divorced and consequently having a split home. I'm also grateful for my parents because despite the fact that they split my life, they give everything, so I have 2 amazing lives that I wouldn't change for the world. My parents are another example that I can share as my view of resilience. There are many examples of when I saw them being resilient and didn't notice, but I'm going to share an example of my mom. For those of you who don't know, Kendra is my stepmother. My biological mother's name is Erin. Now, if you were to say to me, "Oh, Kendra's your mom," or "Hey, you're Kendra's daughter," I won't correct you because that is the relationship we have. Anyways, in August of 2022, my mom told my family at dinner that she had been diagnosed with breast cancer. She made it clear that she didn't want us to worry, but that it was serious and she would be getting treatment for it. From then on, I watched her go through 6 months of chemo and recovery. She was starting to look different, but she still smiled the same. After a few months, she was losing her hair. She got wigs to wear out in public to make her feel more confident, but I could tell that it didn't feel the same. I knew she was going through pain. I could see it in her eyes. Through everything, she still came to all my sports activities, made dinner every night, and worked her management job. I love my mom more than anything, and seeing her go through her battle with cancer was very hard. To this day, I am still astonished by the resilience and strength my mom shows me every day. From the example I just shared, to raising 4 children with their own sets of problems. I don't know how she does it, but I'm forever grateful for her presentation of resilience in my life. As humans, we deal with sickness and disease every day, but I have confidence that all of you can think of a time when it hit hard. That is just one example of how we are all forced to be resilient. Resilience has taught me that life is very difficult, painful. You'll make bad choices and you'll have regrets. But if you see it through, there are moments you look back on that make you smile and laugh, crying tears of joy and sadness. Resilience creates memories. One last example of resilience that I've had a front row view to is Kendra and Rena, and the hard work they put in every year to make this experience possible for you today. They spent countless hours outside of their everyday lives finding people to speak, a venue, and money to fund it all. Meanwhile, they both have full-time jobs and lives to maintain. Needless to say, they put in a lot of hard work to get us all here today. So I will now hand the stage over to them. Thank you.